times. Just a little bit about protocol. What the format will be this morning is I'm going to talk to you about natural sciences at Lancaster, and I've got a whole series of slides. I'll try not to go on too long, although I do tend to talk too much. Just bear with me. If it all goes pear-shaped, what I mean by that, if the technology fails, don't worry. We'll follow up with an email, and we'll be doing more of these webinar days. So I think just bear with me. And what we'll do at the end, you can type in questions, and then I'll try and give an oral answer so everybody can see the question and obviously hear my response. If what I would suggest is if you've got a question, just type in question, and then I'll invite you to unmute your mic and ask the question orally, and I'll try and answer it. It might be that you don't have any questions. That's fine. So that'll be the order of the morning. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, a few notes. First of all, I realise that you're all in a difficult or uncertain procedures or times at the moment. I really sympathise with you, particularly now that the A-level exams have been cancelled. What's going to happen? Well, I think when you look at your UCAS forms, if you look at what the sort of predicted grades are and what teachers have said to you, you're probably in a good position. I mean, most of the students that have applied to natural sciences are really good students. You're all on for really good grades, and whatever the predicted grades are and what your teachers have spoken to you, is likely that will be the grades that you're going to get. And as far as I'm concerned, and Lancaster University is concerned, those grades that you get are A-level grades. Of course they are, and you'll get a place here on one of our degree programs. It is obviously very unusual times, and here at the university, at Lancaster University, it's been a very, very difficult couple of weeks because we're trying to deal with you guys, applicants wanting to come to the university in October, and also our current students as well, because they're expecting the usual assessment and teaching. So there's been a lot of work going on in the background to get that information out to students. And of course, the teaching at the moment, and certainly for next term, is all going to be done online like this, which is not ideal. Okay, well, I might as well kick off. My name, as you know, obviously is Chris Holsall. I'm the Director of Natural Sciences. I'm supported by a really good team of people. So the person who set the meeting up today, Gail Sheldrick, she's our recruitment and conversion manager and deals with everything to do with entry to the natural sciences degree programs, and she also covers chemistry as well. The academic team comprises of me, but also I have two directors of study, a deputy director who's Tony Nixon, and he's a mathematician, and he deals with part one or our first year cohort. And then we've got our second deputy, Mick Baniak, and he's the director of studies for part two. And at Lancaster, part two is second and third year, and also for the MSci students, fourth year as well. A very important person there on the lower right is Carla James. So she's our chief administrator in the Natural Sciences office, and day-to-day stuff Carla will deal with students, student inquiries, problems, etc., etc. So a very useful person. Well, I'm not going to talk a lot about Lancaster University. We're consistently over the last 4 or 5 years in the top 10 of UK universities. The Natural Sciences programme is one of the biggest in the country. We currently have 185 natural sciences students. So I'd say our chief competitors are people like Bath and UCL, Durham, Exeter, all really good universities that offer natural sciences programs. There's something like 16 UK universities offer natural sciences as a degree. And as a group of directors, we meet every 6 months, which is really useful. And I'll talk a little bit about that further, because we've actually launched a Society for Natural Sciences. This is a national society that's now recognized by the Science Council, and is now affiliated with the Charities Commission. So that's all exciting. An important point is that over the last 5 or 6 years, we've had a rolling program of investment in science at Lancaster. And that's really good for you people who are, thinking about your university choice. And, you somewhere in UCAS, you've got 5 choices, and you've clearly got Lancaster down as one of those or more of those. So you're going to come to a really good institute with regards to the science infrastructure. And I've got examples there of where there's been significant investment. So you'll see at the top, 2015, we've got a new engineering building. Well, time has moved on since 2015, and we're now seeing investment in engineering part 2. And that's going ahead next year, 2021, which is really exciting. We've got a brand new refurbished chemistry building, and that photograph there is of undergraduate students in one of their laboratories, all clean and shiny, and it is still clean and shiny. So when you people come, you get brand new laboratories, which is fantastic. We've had a complete refurbishment of the physics building, so that looks really nice as well. And this is really ongoing. So there's the engineering extension for 2021. So we are really thinking about the sciences that we offer at Lancaster, and the Faculty of Science and Technology is the biggest faculty at Lancaster. So it's a thriving faculty comprising of about 8 or 9 departments. Okay, well, you're all familiar with the degree programs because obviously you've applied to one of them. There are the basic offerings. So we have the BSc 3 years Natural Sciences. That comes with a study abroad variant. We have a 4-year placement degree now. So that's Natural Sciences with a placement year. And that would be where you'd spend first and second year at the university. In second year, you'd start to find an outside organisation, a company or charity, create links with them. You'll be completely supported by the careers office in this, and they actually put on special modules just for the placement year students. You'd then spend third year with your host organisation. And then after that year, you come back to complete your degree in your 4th year. We have the MSci variant of those degrees. So we've got the 4-year MSci, and that's the 4th year is what we call an integrated master's year. And again, the MSci comes with a study abroad variant. Now, I would say to you, don't worry about which degree program you've put down in your UCAS form. Because if you think, oh, well, I put the code for the 3-year BSc Natural Sciences, but I really want to do the MSci, don't worry. The most important thing is to get yourself to Lancaster on the Natural Sciences degree program. You can always change once you get to Lancaster. So if you put the BSc and you want to do the MSci, no problem. We can easily transfer you onto that program. Likewise with the placement year. Likewise, if you want to step out of the MSci and just do the BSc, that is fine as well. So it's just getting your foot in the door at the moment. Now, what is natural sciences? Right, well, we've got a fancy term there, consortial degree. That means it differs from a joint honours degree. So someone who's going to do a BSc chemistry, that's what we call a single honours degree. There are then joint honours degrees. So you could do, for example, BSc chemistry with physics or biology with a language. A consortial degree, like natural sciences, is one that draws on many different departments or subjects. And in its strict term, natural sciences is the physical sciences combined with some aspect of the life sciences or biology. But that term is very loose. Natural sciences started life, one of the oldest science degrees, at Cambridge University. And indeed, some of you may well be going for the Cambridge Natural Sciences Tripos. Fantastic. I hope you get a place. But now it's widely interpreted as a way in which students who don't want to be pigeonholed down a single honours route can do a broad range of sciences throughout their degree programme. So, for example, if you're doing 3 science A levels at the moment, and I'll make up some names, so you're doing, say, geography, maths and biology, it means that you can pursue geography, maths and biology throughout your 3 or 4 years degrees. It's slightly more nuanced than that, and I'll give examples in a bit here at Lancaster, but that's what it is. And it's becoming increasingly recognised by employers as students who are really capable, usually highly numerate, are well versed in a whole array of sciences and come with a really good set of skills for the workplace. And that's why we've seen more and more students enrolling on natural sciences. And that's why when you look at our sort of destinations, where do our students go to? Last year we had, or the year before, sorry, we had 100% employment for those students who left with a natural sciences degree. So it really is an exciting time to be pursuing a natural sciences degree. I'm going to talk now about pathways, because this is the name we have given here at Lancaster to routes by which you can do 3 science subjects throughout your degree programme. And it's also, pathways are sort of unique to Lancaster, and the reason why Lancaster is so popular. We are known for having the widest choice of science pathways for any natural science degree here in the UK, and I'll give examples of that. But basically, what we have here at Lancaster, we've opened up the entire Faculty of Science and Technology and the Faculty of Health and Medicine, and allow natural science students to do these different science subjects or combinations of them. So a natural science student coming to Lancaster, you'll be expected to pick 3 pathways or 3 subjects. And here are those science departments as such. There's also room that if you wanted to keep a non-science subject alive, you can do that. So, for example, if you have to do 3 science subjects, 3 subjects, you could do, say, 2 in the sciences and 1 in a non-science subject. There is a caveat there, because we don't have any control of the timetable for the non-science subject. So each year, if a student, for example, wanted to do, I don't know, maths, biology, and say economics, which is a common choice, then most of the time that's fine. But we have to look at the economics timetable each year to check that it doesn't clash with those 2 other science subjects. So we would let you know if that route was not available because of a timetable clash. Now, for something like economics, it's usually fine, but for more unusual subjects, so for example, if you wanted to do history, then sometimes there are problems with the timetable, but we would let you know that. Okay, let's get into the detail and look at these pathways. Right, now then, so I've got this awkward looking table here. Down the left hand side in red are the key science departments or subjects, and then across the columns, across the rows, are the various pathways. So let's just look at the one at the top. There you've got biology. So biology offer 4 pathways. They have a generic biology one, But then they've got microbiology and biomedicine, biochemistry and cell biology, and an environmental biology, ecology and conservation. So a student coming into Lancaster, enrolling in the first year, we would ask you to pick 3 pathways. We can't allow you to do more because there simply isn't space in the timetable. So let's have a scenario here where many natural science students might select. So we've got a number of students who have done this combination of pathways. So they come in with chemistry, biology, and say geography or maths A levels. And this is a really good combination of pathways. So they've got there a biology one, biochemistry and cell biology. They're supporting that with a chemistry pathway, chemical measurement and analysis. And they've got a sporting interest, so they're doing one of the health and medicine pathways, human physiology and exercise science. Great combination. Now, students can keep those 3 pathways throughout their entire 3 or 4 year degree. Alternatively, at the end of the first year, they may have a rethink and they might not like one of those pathways, so they could drop one of them and expand the other 2. So they're doing a 2-pathway natural sciences degree program, and they just fill up their timetable with more modules from the 2 pathways that they want to continue. And when you look at all these pathways, there's 21 here. There's a whole array, a combination of different pathways that students can pick from. So if we have a look at another example. Now I've picked this one. So here we've got someone, a natural science student who has picked ecology and conservation, environmental science and physical geography. Again, a popular combination. This particular pathway, combination of pathways, are all delivered by Lancaster Environment Centre. So that's the biggest department at Lancaster University, and it covers everything from coastal ecology all the way through to planetary science. Natural science students here really take advantage of that department because unlike their single honours peers in geography or environmental science, here you can see that natural science students are really taking advantage. They can do the pathway in environmental science, pathway in physical geography, and also the ecology and conservation pathway, which again is taught by Lancaster Environment Centre. And that's fantastic. Actually, how that works is that those students are totally embedded within Lancaster Environment Centre and take advantage of that full department. So that works really well. But let's say you're more on the physical science side. Here we've got an example of the physics pathway. Now, physics have been quite adventurous and call their pathway physics, but you'll see that a good combination there would be physics and, say, computing and communications. Now, if you know, there isn't a 3rd pathway, and that's because there are certain pathways which are double weighted. In other words, they take up 2/3 of your timetable, and physics is one example of that. And the reason for that is because physics teach a maths for physics set of modules, and they insist that anyone doing the physics pathway have to do those math modules as well, which takes up additional space in your timetable. So if you do the physics pathway, that leaves you room for just one other pathway. So computing and communications is a good example. There is a caveat though, and it's a good one. For the moment, I'm just highlighting those pathways which are double weighted. In other words, they take up 2/3 of your timetable. However, if you were to pick maths, so if I just go back, if you look at that physics again, if you were to select the single maths, then physics and engineering are happy that the maths you are doing with the mathematics department is sufficient to cover the maths that they teach in their departments. And therefore, if you were to pick single maths, that would turn the physics pathway into a single weighted pathway. That means that students who are doing physics and doing maths could pick a third pathway, for example, computing or communications. So maths is a real kingpin there, that if you were to pick the single maths pathway, that would turn physics into a single weighted pathway, and you could pick maths, physics, and then one other pathway, for example, environmental science. So I think that's worth pointing out, that if you're going to do the maths pathway, then that turns lots of the other double weighted pathways into single weighted pathways and gives you more choice. So just to go back, all these highlighted pathways are double weighted. Notice the BPS psychology. That BPS is the British Psychology Society, and that's an accredited route. So that means that if you're doing that double weighted psychology pathway, that gives you accreditation with BPS. But keep in mind that it is double weighted and would allow you only to take one other pathway on top of that BPS psychology. Okay, so how the degree works? Well, first year, like I say, we ask students to pick 3 pathways, at least 2 of which must be in the sciences. So how will that work? Well, once you get your A-level results, obviously this year is a bit different, but I suspect the A-level results will come out at about the same time, in some point in August. If you've put Lancaster down as your firm choice, the Natural Sciences Office will contact you almost the day after and say, please select your pathways. Most students know at least 2 of those pathways. Perhaps the third one is a little bit speculative. Don't worry, just put down 3 pathways, and that helps us enormously because we'll put that into the timetable before you arrive, and that administratively, that's really helpful for us. But don't worry, we're not going to hold you to those pathways just yet. Once you arrive at the university in Welcome Week, which is usually the last week in September, there's plenty of time to discuss options with me or my colleagues, and if you're a bit unsure, and then we can point you down the right routes and which pathways to take. So you complete first year. At the end of the first year, you'll have an opportunity for a one-to-one chat with me or one of my deputies. And if you want to think about second and third year and whether you want to drop a pathway and expand the other 2, that's absolutely fine. There are also opportunities then for students to step out of natural sciences and think, you know what, I've loved everything to do with chemistry and I want to step into a single honours chemistry degree. That's also okay. The only caveat there is that you must have studied enough chemistry to be able to go on to the single honours chemistry. And again, we can give you advice on that, and likewise with other degrees as well. As you progress into second and third year, you'll find you'll be doing more specialist modules, but there'll also be more flexibility in that there are fewer what we call mandatory modules for those pathways, and that gives you a lot more choice. And you don't have to have your 3 pathways or 2 pathways equally balanced. You can favour one subject over the other. But the pathways have been constructed so that they give you a seamless progression from one year to the next. In other words, they give you access to those core modules that allow you to progress to more advanced modules in the following year. Okay, now a little bit of technical and probably an awful set of slides, but I think this is really useful for you students who might be here with us in next academic year. So what is this? Well, this is just an excerpt from Lancaster University Student Information System, and it just shows you an example student here, a natural sciences student who is doing ecology and conservation, maths, and physics pathways. Now, you might be thinking, well, hold on a minute, you've just told me physics is double weighted, so how can this student do 3 pathways? Well, the reason for that is because they've got maths there, that single maths. So you'll see that maths 100. So if you look at the left-hand column, those are what we call module mnemonics. They usually start with a few letters followed by a series of digits. So LEC at the top there, that LEC 141, that stands for Lancaster Environment Centre. But those 140 series modules are the ecology and conservation. The math 100 underneath, that is the single maths pathway. And you'll see things like calculus, probability, statistics, etc. And then underneath that, you've then got the physics pathway. And really good combination of subjects there. The student can keep those going, obviously throughout the first year and then on into second and third year. You notice that a couple of things there. As you go across those columns, you'll see major, 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 major. That means that those modules are majorable modules in that you're being assessed in those modules. Each module has a credit weighting of 8. So that you'll see that each pathway, for many of the first year pathways, you sum up those 5 modules, and that's a total credit weighting of 40. And then there's 3 40s there for the 3 pathways. So that means that a typical undergraduate year has 120 credits, and that works very well. Now, you can drop one of those pathways at the end of the first year if you wish and expand the other 2. It just depends on your preferences. Now, if we move into part 2, what we call second and third year, this is a different student, but again, a student who's doing maths and physics, and they're also doing the cell biology, the microbiology pathway. Notice that the far right column, the weightings have changed. So second and third year modules have a higher credit weighting. That means that they're more in depth. There's more coursework. There's more contact time with staff and teaching assistants, etc. Usually more laboratory time as well in the sciences. You'll also notice, though, that if you look at that column with the majors in it, some of those majors have changed. You'll see a term there called audit. And natural sciences take advantage of this. What does audit mean? Well, it means that that particular module is in your timetable, but you're not going to be assessed in it. You've selected it as an audit. That means you attend the lectures, you can attend the practicals, and the reason that natural sciences often pick a module to be audit is because their timetable is quite full, but they want to, out of interest and to keep up with their single honours peers, they want to do more modules and learn more, keep to the breadth that the single honours students have in their particular subject. But they're not actually assessed in that particular module. And we see many natural science students supplementing their program with auditable modules. Also, as well, you'll see that the sum of those weighted credits might go above 120. So in part 2, second and third year, we are flexible. You don't have to stick to the 120 credits. As long as if you do fewer than 120 credits, say 115 or 110, keep in mind that the following year you'll have to do 130 or 140 credits worth of modules to make sure that part 2 is at the recommended 240 credits in total. But so there's a lot of flexibility there. And you can see that these 3 pathways are not equally weighted. So they might be doing slightly less or fewer maths modules than they are, say, biology. So we allow that flexibility as well. All right, and another awful looking slide, but we have what we call Lancaster, and this is how students will view their timetable, and it pops up on your mobile phone. So this is what it would look like. So here's a student who's doing, chemistry and biology. You'll see those mnemonics there. So at the top, you've got Chem 224 L01/01. What does that mean? Well, first of all, Chem 224, that's a chemistry module. It's L, it stands for a lecture, and it's going to occur at 11 o'clock on a Monday morning. And the location of that lecture is in the Faraday building, FAR, in the Cavendish Colloquium Lecture Theatre. And that's going to run from weeks 16 to 20. Now, at Lancaster, we have 3 terms. So Michaelmas term runs from October to Christmas, weeks 1 to 10. After Christmas is the Lent term, weeks 11 to 20. And then after Easter, we have the summer term, weeks 21 to 30. So we have a very simple 3 10-week term teaching year. And this is what the mornings might look like for a typical second-year student who's doing 3 pathways, chemistry and biology. Sorry, it looks like just a 2-pathway student there. One thing you might notice, though, the eagle-eyed amongst you, is that if you look underneath the chemistry 224 that's highlighted, you'll see that biology 243 also runs in weeks 11 to 20. So from weeks 16 to 20, there's a little clash there. There's a timetable clash. In other words, a student has to be in 2 places at once. And this is quite common for natural sciences students, that they do see clashes in their timetable. And we certainly permit a clash in the timetable, certainly for lectures. And we would recommend in a situation like this that the student attends, say, the chemistry lecture one week and then the biology lecture the following week. And because we have a really good virtual learning environment, it's called Moodle, the lecturer will post notes, lecture material, and even a little video of that lecture online. So for the missed lecture, you could then watch that at your own leisure and pick up on that information. So we do allow lecture clashes. We don't allow assess practical or workshop clashes. So you'll see they're highlighted on a Thursday morning. The student has Chem 224, which is organometallic chemistry, and P stands for practical, and it runs all morning and it will carry on into the afternoon. So we will look for these sorts of practical clashes before you come to the university. There's a lot of backroom work done, and we will talk to timetabling and remove those sort of clashes that might be detrimental to students. But you can see there the sort of typical second year practical that is common in, say, chemistry and physics or environmental science. It might be a full day lab class or a field trip or whatever. If we look in towards sort of afternoons for the same student, most of the afternoons you would then expect computer workshops, practicals, field trips, and most of the lectures would be in the morning. You'll also see there on the Monday afternoon what's going on from 6 o'clock till 7:30. Don't worry, it's not a formal course, but alumni talks. There's a lot of additional activities going on for natural science students. We've got at the moment, a really active Society of Natural Sciences run by students, and we get a lot of outside speakers coming in and all sorts of activities, and usually they're fun as well. They might be associated with a quiz night and a pizza night and what have you. So all of these things can be timetabled. Okay, yeah, a little bit of contact time. Well, the first year, this is very approximate, because obviously natural sciences with your 3 pathways, each pathway is going to differ, but you're looking at about 9 hours of contact lectures followed with 9 hours of practicals, approximately 18 hours a week. Second and third year, slightly more, we up it. and you're looking at very approximately 20 hours a week, but that will really vary. I know in maths they do a lot of online assessments, online quizzes, etc., and online problem solving, and that can often be more than 20 hours a week. We have a fantastic support system. Every natural science student will get at least 3 academic tutors. So if you think about your 3 pathways, you're going to get a tutor from 3 different science departments. Now, not every natural science students will use that tutor system. Most students will just go to 1. What happens in those tutorials? Well, it's a very small group, may even be 1-to-1. You're talking about academic matters. If an academic tutor can look at your coursework, it might not be their particular module, but they can certainly give you tips on how to interpret feedback, and if you've got units missing or whatever, they can talk you through that. As you go into 2nd and 3rd year, there may be tutorials just on things like CV preparation and job opportunities. And additional skills, thinking about communication skills, presentation skills, use of particular software, etc. We also have support for both English and maths. Students that come in with disabilities, everything from physical disabilities to things like dyslexia and dyspraxia. We have independent learning and support plans that might give you extra time in exams or assessments. So it's a very good system, and there's lots of support groups around the university. So we have student well-being, student transition groups, making that transition from schools and colleges to university. So it is a very well supported system. The MSci year. Now, the MSci year, out of those 185 natural science students here at Lancaster, we've got I'd say about half of them are on the MSci, and that's the 4th year. And the 4th year comprises of, again, that 120 credits, so 4 15-credit master's level modules, and importantly, a mandatory research project. Half of the year is dedicated to the research project, and that would be in a science department or one of our cross-disciplinary research centres. And you can pick modules from one department, or as natural science students from 2 or more departments to support your dissertation. And Lancaster has a very good reputation with research. Here's examples of what I would call cross-science disciplinary groupings. We have Data Science Institute, Material Science Institute, etc., etc. If you think about something like the COVID-19 problem at the moment, this is a really good example of interdisciplinary science that's going to solve the issue. Everything from molecular biology, with the swab testings, antibody testings, right the way through to epidemiology and data science, looking at trying to interpret epidemiological trends. It's a really good example of an interdisciplinary science issue that is going to be solved by people with natural sciences backgrounds. And a dissertation in this area is something that you could pursue. Study abroad program, very popular. So the most important note for the Lancaster Study Abroad program is that year abroad is an integral part of your degree program. So whichever university you go to, the courses you'll be doing, the assessment, any exams will shape your final degree mark. So the BSc students would start preparing for their year abroad in their 1st year at Lancaster. The MSci students would go abroad in the 3rd year. So they'd have 2 years at Lancaster first before they would then go abroad. The whole of the study abroad program is run through the Global Experience Office, and they are fantastic at Lancaster. We have 16 universities that natural sciences liaises with. Most of those are in North America, but we do have universities in Australia and New Zealand, and 2 in Hong Kong as well. and we've had students right around the world. We've currently got 16 students who, unfortunately, this year have had their studies cut short, obviously because of the COVID-19 problem. I deeply admire their resilience. There wasn't any panic. They've all managed to get back safely to the UK. But the message we've got is they were loving it abroad. It's just such a shame that they've had to come back. The next cohort will be going out in August. Of course, it's all up in the air at the moment because of the problems of COVID-19. We'll just have to wait and see. But it is a very, very good program. Like I say, if you've not selected the study abroad program and you're really interested in it, don't worry. You can jump into this degree program once you arrive at Lancaster. Likewise, some students, once they arrive at Lancaster, they get stuck into the first year, they get lots of friends, groups and buddies at the university, and then they realise that they don't want to go abroad. That's okay as well. As long as you give us plenty of notice that you're no longer interested in the study abroad, we can strike you off that list. Here's an example of just some of our partner universities. This is reasonably up to date. There are more universities there in Canada that are listed. But that just gives you an example of places that we send natural sciences students to. Now, obviously for natural sciences, there's a lot of background work in that if you're doing 3 pathways at Lancaster, we have to ensure that those 3 pathways are mirrored in the overseas university. And all of these places have that capability. So they have a profile, subject profile, very similar to Lancaster. So it works very well. Yeah, just something on the costs here. I mean, you tend to think, oh yeah, going abroad for a year is more expensive. I think in the short term, yes, it is. I mean, you have to find flights. Accommodation is all organised through the Global Experience Office. Clearly, you've got to pay for it. But in the long term, it can actually work out to be quite cost effective because you only pay 15% of that £9,250 tuition fee, so about £2,000. So in the long term, that year abroad can actually be a saving for you. But it's fully recognised by Student Finance England, so it is supported there under the student loan system. And the feedback we get from students is just tremendous. Okay, I'm getting towards the end now. A big question is, well, you know, what sort of degree am I going to get? So what this figure shows, so starting at the top there, it's going back in time. These are the proportion of degrees, proportion of students awarded the different degree classifications for academic year 14-15 at the top, right the way down to last summer, academic year 18-19, so people who graduated in June 2019. And no surprises in that the proportion of students receiving first or 2-1 degrees is over 90%. And the simple reason for that is because you students going on natural sciences degree programs are some of the brightest in the country. And certainly for natural sciences at Lancaster, you have the highest A-level tariff score anywhere in the university, more so than the medics. So it's no surprises that you're coming out with the highest degrees. So a really capable bunch of students, and we'd really welcome you here at Lancaster. Just to show some of our competitors, maybe you've got some of these, our sister departments in your UCAS forms. Good on you if you have. I know all of the directors at these different institutes, and there's more besides as well. But just to show that our NSS, our National Student Survey, so each year, those students who are about to leave us, the graduating year, complete the NSS. And you can see that the overall satisfaction in the natural sciences degree programs and how stimulating they thought the degree is really high. I'd say importantly that lower table, working or in further study 6 months after graduation, is an important statistic to look at. You'll see there for Lancaster, we've got 100%, which is just tremendous. When I buried down into the statistics, drilled down into them, for that particular year, so going back a little bit in time, because it's when the data were released by the Higher Education Statistical Authority. It was the academic year of June 2016. We had 47 students graduate from natural sciences, and of those 37 responded to the survey, and they were either in work, graduate level work, not just working in the local pub, but also many of them had gone into postgraduate study, particularly MRes and PhDs. So, you know, if you're thinking, oh, well, will natural sciences take me into a research pathway? Absolutely, yes. And in fact, this year, the Faculty of Science and Technology at Lancaster awarded natural sciences a faculty-funded PhD. And we've had a number of really good proposals from various staff. And these were interdisciplinary science proposals. That was the remit. And a current natural sciences student who's going to graduate this year has been awarded it. So that's really exciting. So there's plenty of postgraduate research opportunities if you want it. At the top of this slide, you'll see the Society for Natural Sciences. So that has been launched in 2019. That's a result of all the directors of those various universities that offer natural sciences coming together, and we've created this society. Our next step is to get accreditation. So you'll find that natural sciences degrees, not all of them, will become accredited through the Science Council. Also, our society, we run a national annual student conference. So that little photo on the right hand side are 6 Lancaster students who attended the conference last year at Birmingham University. This year, well, actually next week, it was going to be at York University, but of course it's been cancelled because of COVID-19. So it's postponed, I should say. It's going to run next year. Lancaster hosted it in 2018, and we had some fantastic external speakers come in. So yeah, it's a good, vibrant community, and we'd love to see you at Lancaster, really. Okay, Gail, are you still there?
I am. Are you going to talk about grades?
Oh yes, I will do. Yes. Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks, Gail. Right, I put the slide up here to avoid any confusion. So many of you, or some of you, you know, you've done really well at your college, and you're on what we call the unconditional offer scheme. So well done, you. That puts you on the natural sciences degree program. However, I must state that there are certain pathways, and they're listed here, the various subjects that require you to have that A-level subject. And it's a bit of a no-brainer in that if you want to do chemistry, you've got to have a chemistry A-level. Likewise, if you want to do maths or physics, you've got to have maths and physics A-levels. But those departments also require certain grades. So you will see there, for example, maths requires an A, and chemistry require at least a grade B. And that's really important. Irrespective of whether you've got an unconditional offer, you have to get those grades in order to get on those particular pathways. So I think that's an important point to get across. I'm sure most students or applicants are aware of that, but I wanted to get that point across. So it's this horrible term of, yes, it's an unconditional offer, but there are some conditions tied to it. And the reason we do this is because from hard experience, if you get a student coming in who might have biology, geography, and chemistry, and they go on the physics pathway, then they're going to be really disadvantaged, and they wouldn't complete first year, and they'd be really upset, and staff would be stressed, and it'd be awful. So hence we've got these rules in place, and that makes for a much better experience at university. Okay, Gail, are we about there?
I think that's it, yes.
All right. So let me try and I'll press the stop presenting and we can go to the chat screen. Great. And okay, now, if you've got any questions, I don't mind whether you want to type in a query or a question, or whether you just want to type question and then unmute your mic and just speak to all of us and speak to me, and I'll hopefully give you a sensible answer. So feel free to do that. If you're happy and you don't have any questions, you could just click a thumbs up or emoji symbol. That's absolutely fine. But feel free to type or ask a question, and I'll hopefully I can answer it. While you're thinking about that, I can just chat away about Lancaster and some of the issues to do with COVID-19, if you wish. Do you think I've covered most points there, Gail?
Yeah, what I was going to say, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, and everybody else too, is after this, I will send a copy of the recording. And also I'll send some information, general information, because the university is holding quite a few webinars on things like student life and accommodation, life at Lancaster. They're also doing some live chats via Unibuddy. There's great information on the website about all the things to do with the disruption of COVID-19. So I will send that information to you. And just to say as well that I'm going to be on holiday next week, but Chris is going to cover any emails that you think about next week. So I'll send you Chris's email address, because the university will close next week for Easter. I think it's from Wednesday at 5:30 till the following Thursday. So the university will be closed then, but Chris will be around next week, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, to answer any questions that you have via email. And you're getting some questions coming through, Chris. Can you see them?
No, I can't. And I suspect this is one of the problems I've got with Microsoft Teams. It's not just me. There always seems to be a lag with the chat.
Yeah. Shall I read it to you?
Yes, please do, go.
Okay, Julian asks, are there assessments in every year or just final year? If so, how are we assessed? Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, there is assessment throughout each year. So each module you do, so let's say a first year module, will have assessment with it. And usually that is 1 or 2 pieces of coursework, possibly an end of module test. So a typical first year module comprises of 12 lectures, that's 3 lectures per week, and 1 practical class per week. And at the end of that 4 or 5 week block, you might have an end of module test, and that can vary from an online assessment to sitting down with a multi-choice. You'll have a piece of coursework, it could be a lab report. And then at the end of the summer term, you'll have summer exams for those modules that you've taken. And then that's also the case in second and third year. So the assessment is ongoing. Okay.
Question from Stephanie. Earlier, when you were talking about auditing certain modules, do these modules have to be from subjects you are taking, or can you take some out of interest from other subjects?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. No, you can audit what you want. So if you have a general interest, yes, you can audit other modules. There is a little caveat there. If it's a subject that is really quite different from the sciences, then please talk to the Natural Sciences Office first, because what we would do is we would then talk to that lecturer or that department just to check that it's okay, because sometimes class sizes can be limited. For example, if you're in a for example, you're using in a PC lab, then they would give priority to those students who are majoring that module rather than auditing. So we would just double check the numbers first. But yes, by and large, the answer is yes. You could audit really any module you wanted to.
Okay, another question from Khalil. I've been told I am eligible for the Excellence Scholarship Scheme and have looked into it. Could you tell me how much is offered and what grades are needed to achieve this, please?
Really good question, and unfortunately I don't know. So what I would request is, Gail, if you could take a note of that question.
Yeah.
And the applicant who's asking it, and we will follow up with an email.
Yeah, just to say why you've got that, what grades you needed to get that. Yeah, I can do that, Khalil. I'll send that afterwards if that's okay.
Great.
Other question is from Julian. Roughly how many students are in the cohort every year?
Oh, right, that's a good one. Yeah, between 50 and 60. So in this current academic year, so that's 2019-20, we have 64 first year students. Of those 64, I would say about half of them are on the MSci degree program. We have 16 students who are hoping to go and study abroad this August, although I don't think that's going to happen now. But that's the sort of number. You're looking at between 50 and 60 per year.
Thanks, Julian. And from Oliver, you mentioned that switching to a single honours course is possible after the first year. If in the first few weeks of the first year you decide that you only want to do one subject, e.g. physics, is it possible to switch to a single honours course?
Yes, it is. Now, Lancaster University operates a cooling off period of, it's quite short though, 2 weeks. So in the first 2 weeks of the Christmas term, you have a time to then think, you know what, that this degree program or this course isn't right for me. And in the first instance, I would say come to the Natural Sciences office and talk to us. And yes, that should be fine. If you get sort of halfway through the first term or towards the end of the first term, we always have some wriggle room for students to say, I'd look at what the pathways a student is doing, and I often give advice like, look, complete first year, because you're doing, say, the physics pathway. If you do the physics pathway, you can then, at the end of the first year, you can then turn that into a full physics degree, ready for your second and third year. So where there's a will, there's a way. What I would do is if a student is thinking, oh, I'm not sure. I've started enrolled on the natural sciences degree, but ultimately I'm thinking I want to switch to, say, the BSc biology. I would look at the pathways you're doing, and I'd probably urge you to do, say, 2 pathways in biology, and what, say, for example, the third pathway might be chemistry. And that way, you at the end of the first year, you can then switch to the single honours biology. So I think the watchword is, once you get into the Christmas term, and you're a little bit wobbly and you're not sure, just keep talking to us. Just alert us to either me or the Natural Sciences office or one of my deputies, and then we can advise accordingly.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. From Lily, is there an easy way to find out what combination of pathways will be available in terms of timetabling, specifically ones outside of the Natural Sciences department? Thanks.
Yeah. What I would recommend over the coming weeks, and you're well ahead of the curve, so you don't have to worry about timing, is think about that other subject that you want to do and send a note to either Gail or me or the generic Natural Sci email address to say what combination you're thinking of doing. And then we can look at that case in particular, and I can give recommendations. Now, the new timetable actually doesn't come out until July. So sometimes we put students on hold to say, okay, yeah, you want to do, say, geography and biology pathway and then history. We would confirm that in July once the new timetable comes out, and we can look at the sort of clashes that might occur in the timetable. So there's a little bit of holding on until the early summer, but then we would confirm it. If there are clashes, if I consider the clashes to be just too severe, then we'd say to you, look, we're sorry, you can audit some of the history and keep that going as an interest, but you're going to have to pick another pathway, another subject to make up your timetable. Okay.
And from Julian, what are the main reasons Lancaster NatSci is different to other unis? Why should I go for Lancaster? With a caveat that not sure if that was covered, as I missed the start of the talk. There are a few issues with some people not getting the joining instructions.
Right, that's a really good point. Lancaster Natural Sciences, its unique selling point, although I don't like that term, is just the wide choice of science pathways. We've got 21 of them, and that's more than any of our sort of competitor universities. And not that I really like to use the term competitor, because I meet with the other directors of natural science units. Just because it's got natural sciences in the title doesn't mean that natural sciences degree programs are all the same. So, for example, some of you may well have been to York or looked at York University's natural sciences. They offer a very different model to Lancaster. They've got sort of 8 units or 8 subjects that you can choose from. They've got things like archaeology, which we don't even do at Lancaster. So it's very different. But Lancaster's I'd say the real advantage with Lancaster is just that wide choice and the flexibility within the degree program. Now that creates work behind the scenes. I mean, the natural sciences office is really difficult juggling the timetables, but it works for you students. I think it's a really good offering that we have at Lancaster. So, for example, we do have some natural science students who are doing electronic engineering and physics and maths as their pathways, and yet they're graduating with a natural sciences degree, which seems a little strange. I must stress that when you graduate and you get your natural sciences degree certificate, supporting that certificate is what we call a degree transcript, and that lists all the modules that you've taken during your degree program. So it's very quick. It's very easy for an employer or another university to see the subjects that have shaped your natural sciences degree. Okay.
Okay. And from Lily again, is there any problem with taking subjects out of natural sciences that don't have many modules but big blocks like politics?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, there are some issues there, and it's mainly to do with timetabling. We do see that with things like politics and philosophy. Also, to some extent, with economics as well. They run these much bigger modules that have credits of credit weightings of say 24 or 16, and sometimes it's very difficult to fit those into the timetable alongside say 2 science pathways. It's just a bespoke issue which we'd need to deal with on a case-by-case basis depending on which non-science subjects you want to pursue.
Other question from Oliver is the same one that Khalil said about grades for the unconditional offer scheme. So again, I'll send that to you, Oliver. Then we go on to Julian, who says, when you had the slide comparing universities, was the overall satisfaction rating to do with just the course or the uni as a whole?
Oh, yeah, it's just the course. Okay, there are something like 26, 27 questions in the National Student Survey, covering everything from what they think about the university as a whole, to sporting facilities, to resources like library, etc., right the way down to particular degree program and modules. So my little excerpt there from NSS was just to do with the degree program, Natural Sciences.
I think that is it. If anybody else has got any more, that's it at the moment.
Okay.
Just one more snuck in. How are your science facilities? Are they modern?
Yes, I highlighted some of this at the beginning of the talk, in that there's been a lot of investment in the sciences at Lancaster. The Faculty of Science and Technology is the biggest faculty. We're also the biggest income generating faculty with regards to research. So the facilities reflect that. And we've had brand new laboratories in a whole array of different departments. So, for example, if you were to go into Lancaster Environment Centre, you'd see huge new teaching labs for the earth sciences and environmental sciences. And then above those, biological and life sciences, they've mirrored those new laboratories by building new ones on top of them for all the biology students, and they are fantastic. I must stress as well, I mean, thinking of this COVID-19, I can never get it out of my mind. Lancaster University has just donated all their PCR instruments to the National Testing Centre at Milton Keynes. So what's PCR? Well, PCR is polymerized chain reaction. And what these instruments do is if you put a sample, a biological sample, and you're trying to isolate a particular piece of bacterial, or more importantly, viral DNA or RNA, polymerized chain reaction instruments, they amplify that particular piece of DNA or RNA. And so you can quickly, and also it's highly specific, you can quickly identify that particular viral DNA. So those instruments have been donated. We actually got the military, we actually got the Coldstream Guards coming to Biological Life Sciences and Lancaster Environment Centre to pick those PCR instruments up. So yeah, I mean, back to the point, we've got fully equipped labs at research level and teaching level, and you can get on those instruments. It's interesting, fascinating times. Okay.
I think that's it, Chris. Nobody else has got any more questions.
Okay, well, look, thank you everyone for coming on board. I'm sorry I whittled on for over an hour. Hopefully it's given you an insight. UCAS, I believe, have extended their deadline, so you've got a bit of time to think about which of your 5 choices you want to firm up. Obviously, I'd be really happy if you pick Lancaster. That'd be fantastic. If you know what university you want to go for, which degree program you want to go for, just press that firm button and get the job done. I wish you all the very best over the coming weeks. If it was me, if I'd gone back in time and it had happened to me, and I'd be thinking, wow, my A-level exams have just been cancelled, I'd be absolutely all over the place. So I really feel for you guys at the moment. But you know what? The systems in place, and I know this from the university, are really there to be equitable and fair. And whatever happens over the coming weeks, you will have earned those A-level grades, irrespective of whether you have to sit. You can't be sitting in a hall now to do those exams. You will get those grades, and that will reflect your hard work over the last 2 years. We would love to see you here at Lancaster. What's going to happen with the new term, I just don't know yet. It's a difficult choice for you guys. We will come through this. Whether next term is going to be disrupted, it doesn't really matter. You've got to think for the next 3 or 4 years. And certainly I would say, well, I can't say anything for certain, but by 2021, you'd be here at Lancaster enjoying the courses, hopefully. So I just wish you the best of luck, and try and dig deep and hang tough for the next few weeks while we all come out of this lockdown. So thanks once again for joining, and have a nice day and a nice Easter as well. Yeah, take a bit of a break.
Can I just say as well, Chris, obviously do stay safe and take care, and obviously families as well. We know it's a very difficult time for everybody at the moment, but we hope you all stay safe and well. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, bye folks. Bye now. See you, Gail.